Hello, good day to everyone. For today, we are going to discuss the first part of our lesson this week. This week meron tayong meron tayong two lessons, very important. We are now going to go deeper into the process of experimentation. The past few episodes, nag-focus lang muna tayo doon sa mga general information about experiment in relation to the other research methods, right? For today, talagang ang pag-uusapan na natin is the essence of experimentation. In fact, for today, ang title nga nung ating lesson is Experiment in Focus. We are now going to focus our attention on the specifics of psychological experiments. I have two goals for this lesson. Number one, pag-uusapan natin ano ba yung mga basic functions why we do experiments. Although, na-discuss ko na yung unang reason why we do experiment, and that is to identify a cause. Meron pa kasing ibang mga reasons in psychology why we would be doing experiments. Pag-uusapan natin yung mga yon. And number two, and I think this will be part 2 of our video lecture, we are now going to talk about the different structures of a psychological experiment. Ang experiment kasi parang parang cellphone yan, na marami siyang parts, marami siyang smaller components. For example, in my cellphone, meron siyang screen, meron siyang volume up and volume down, meron siyang power button, meron siyang camera. The same thing with psychological experiments. For you to be able to appreciate the process of experiment better, kinakailangan familiar ka doon sa mga basic parts of psychological experiments. Pag-uusapan natin yan sa second part of our lecture video. But for today, again, we just go to number 1. What are the different functions or purposes why we will do experiments? Bakit ba tayo nag-experiment? Again, in the past lecture, sinabi ko na isa sa mga dahilan why we are doing experiments is because we want to identify causes of certain psychological experiences, di ba? Gusto nating malaman yung cause ng happiness, depression, stress, motivation. And I already explained to you in the past lesson kung ano ba yung mga advantages kapag alam natin yung cause ng mga psychological experiences, di ba? If you remember yung depression, you can only imagine how helpful it will be for the field of mental health if we know the cause of depression. Dahil alam na natin yung cause ng depression, one of the things na pwede natin magawa is alam natin kung paano iwasan ng depression at alam din natin kung paano i-treat yung depression. Simply because we already know the cause of depression. Okay, so that's one of the main reasons why we do experiments. We want to identify the cause of certain psychological experiences. Number 2, another reason bakit tayo nag-experiment is because we want to test the truthfulness of a conclusion or a proposed truth. Kasi araw-araw, 'di ba, gumigising tayo, marami tayong mga naririnig na mga quote-unquote truths, mga quote-unquote na mga news. But would you agree with me, hindi tayo makakaasa that all of the things that we are hearing are actually true. Let me give you one hypothetical example. Okay, so wag niyo itong masyadong seryosohing example na to, no? This is just for the sake of example. Halimbawa, meron kang nabasang article in Facebook, meron daw isang experiment na ginawa ang isang grupo ng mga estudyante about the intelligence level of Lasallians and Ateneans. And according to the conclusion of that study, sabi sa kanilang data, mas matatalino raw ang mga estudyante from Ateneo compared to Lasal. Now, syempre, I would understand, you being a Lasallian, medyo mafe-feel bad ka sa results na yan. Medyo magdududa ka sa conclusion na yan, right? Hindi mo kaagad tatanggapin that this is true. Because of course, you are a Lasallian, gusto mo yung result baliktad, 'di ba? So medyo duda ka doon sa conclusion that Ateneans are smarter than DLSU students. So you are doubting the results. Question: ano ang pwede mong gawin para ma-resolve yung doubt mo about this quote-unquote truth that Ateneans are smarter than Lasallians? Gagawa ka ng tinatawag nating replication experiment. What do we do in replication experiment? As you can see on the picture, you are going to do a study that has already been done before, exactly how it was done. So, uulitin mo lang yung isang study na ginawa na in the past, uulitin mo ulit siya ngayon. For what purpose? Bakit mo uulitin yung study na ginawa na pala noon? Because you would like to find out if you are going to get the same results. Kasi kapag yung resulta doon sa past study, ganun din yung resulta kapag inulit mo siya ngayon, then most likely, that conclusion from that past study is true. Diba? Yun yung assumption natin in replication experiments. You are going to do a past experiment exactly how it was done before for you to conclude na tama nga yung conclusion doon sa experiment na yun. Again, ang tawag doon is replication experiment. And again, why do we do replication experiments? Para ma-confirm natin if those truths in the past, those truths that people are claiming to be truths are really the truth. That's what you mean by replication experiment. The third reason bakit tayo nag-experiment is because we want to test the validity of psychological theories. Alam nyo, one of the things na kapansin-pansin in our field in psychology, we study many theories. Tama? Ang dami-dami nating mga teorya na pinag-aaralan. For example, theories of personality pa lang di ba? Theories of personality pa lang, ang dami na nating theories na pinag-aaralan. But to tell you the truth, hindi lahat ng theories na pinag-aaralan natin sa psychology is actually true. Correct, believe it or not, merong mga theories in psychology na hindi totoo. Merong mga theories sa psychology that does not confirm what's really happening in reality. Let me give you one example of a theory that I think is very interesting, no? For example, alam nyo ba na this question is very popular in the psychology of human attraction. Di ba nabanggit ko sa inyo, that is one of my areas of specialization. Isang tanong in the psychology of attraction is this: what male attribute sexually attracts women? Ano ba ang isang katangian ng kalalakihan na karamihan ng mga girls talaga yun ang hinahanap? Na kapag lalaki ka at meron kang attribute na yan, most likely girls are going to be attracted to you. Now, the thing is, there are many theories out there that answer this question. But there is this one theory that I would like to introduce to you. Ito yung tinatawag nating the evolutionary theory of attraction. According to this theory, ang isang katangian daw ng mga lalaki that girls are really attracted to is their power. In fact, if you are going to compare power and beauty, most women would choose that their mate would be powerful more than beautiful. So, mas gugustuhin mo raw yung boyfriend na powerful compared sa boyfriend na pogi. Kumbaga, kung papipiliin ka, powerful na hindi pogi or pogi na hindi powerful, most girls would choose guys who are powerful. Now, it sounds logical, it sounds interesting, pero ito ang tanong, is that theory true? Totoo ba that most girls are quote-unquote wired to look after power of their mates, di ba? Magandang pag-aralan yan. So, anong gagawin mo para malaman mo if what this theory is saying is true? Ang gagawin mo dyan is gagawa ka ng theoretical experiment. Ibig sabihin ng theoretical experiment, you are going to design an experiment wherein your main agenda is to find out if what the theory is saying is true. So, going back to my example, paano ka kaya gagawa ng experiment para malaman mo kung totoo nga yung sinasabi ng evolutionary theory? Then, mag-design ka ng experiment wherein you will collect female participants, and then, in the end, doon sa experiment mo, malalaman mo if more girls prefer powerful guys over pogi guys. And kapag nakita mo na in your data that most girls really do prefer guys who are more powerful than more pogi, then that means you are able to confirm na totoo nga yung evolutionary theory. However, kapag baliktad naman yung nakita mo sa iyong data, mukhang sa data mo ang sinasabi, most girls would go after pogi guys more than powerful guys, then that means you are able to disconfirm the theory. So, pwede mong sabihin na mali yung theory na tinest mo. Maliwanag ba? So, yan yung ibig sabihin ng theoretical experiments. That's another reason why we do psychological experiments. So, in summary, there are 3 reasons why we do psychological experiments. Diba? Ano yung mga reasons natin? Number 1, because we would like to identify the cause of something. Number 2, because we would like to replicate an experiment para malaman natin if the proposed truth is really the truth. And number 3, we would like to evaluate theories, kaya tayo gagawa ng theoretical experiment. Okay? So, let's do this simple exercise. Kumuha kayo ng isang pirasong papel or on your notebooks in experimental psychology, I would like you to answer the following questions. No? Meron akong mga research topics dito na ibibigay, and then your task is to identify kung ano kaya ang purpose ng experiment, yung pinakabagay given the following problems. Okay? So, let's move on to that exercise. Ang gagawin nyo lang is letters only. If you think that item's agenda is to identify the cause, write letter C. If the agenda is to replicate something, letter R. If the agenda is to evaluate a theory, letter T. Alright? So, let's do this. Ready? Numbers 1 to 5. You can pause the video if you like. Now, let's talk about the correct answers. Okay, pag-usapan na natin yung mga tamang sagot on the following items. Number 1, which is more scientifically valid? Operant conditioning theory or classical conditioning theory? The answer is letter T. This is going to be a theoretical experiment. Gusto ko lang din idagdag sa theoretical experiment, pwede ka rin gumawa ng experiment wherein you are going to test 2 theories that are saying different things about a common question. Like for example, in number 1, di ba? Parang pinaglalaban mo dito yung operant conditioning theory tsaka yung classical conditioning theory. So in that case, you are also doing a theoretical experiment. Kung gusto mong malaman kung sinong mas valid, kung sinong mas totoong theory, theoretical experiment din yon. How about number 2? Is B.F. Skinner's results on pigeons consistent in all pigeons? You are going to do a replication study. Why replication study? Kasi ginawa na ni Skinner noon 'di ba? Meron na siyang series of experiments. Medyo nagdududa ka kung totoo din ba yung mga nakita ni Skinner dito sa ibang mga pigeons. Because remember, Skinner used American pigeons. Ang tanong, kapag ginawa mo ba yung ginawa ni Skinner doon sa kanyang original experiment, would you see the same results if, for example, you used Philippine pigeons? Diba? And also, I would like to add about replication experiments, isang reason din kung bakit ka nagre-replicate ng experiments is because you believe the results will be different in a different context. Halimbawa, marami kasing mga experiments in psychology, ginawa talaga yan in the Western world, in Europe, in America, because it's a very Western field, yung psychology, di ba? Ngayon, marami mga theories na, yung theories na yon were born out of studies, out of experiments done in the Western world. Ngayon, in anthropology, we believe that people see things in different ways because they have different cultures. So, yung nangyari sa Amerika nung ginawa yung experiment, posibleng hindi ganun yung mangyayari when you do that experiment using Filipinos. 'Di ba? So, kung meron kang pagdududa na generalizable, that's a very important term, generalizable ba yung results in an American study to the Philippine context, then you will do a replication experiment. So, ang gagawin mo lang doon sa experiment na yon, you are going to follow the same methods na ginawa doon sa West, pero this time, ano lang ang iba? Yung participants mo. So, kung anong ginawa doon sa original study in America, gagawin mo rin exactly the same. Same method, same procedure, same instruments. It's just that in your replication study in the Philippines, you are going to use Filipino participants. And there, you will find out kung pareho ding bang results ang makukuha mo. 'Di ba? Kumbaga parang tinetest mo yung generalizability ng Western conclusion dito sa Asian reality. Okay? So that's another reason why we do replication studies. Let's move on to number 3, which leads to higher levels of aggression. Watching a violent TV show or watching an aggressive model in the video. This time, you are going to do letter C. Diba? Gusto mong mag-identify ng cause. Diba? Ano yung cause and effect dito? What is your cause here? The cause is watching TV. Diba? Kung anong klaseng show ang panonoorin, that's letter C. Gusto mong malaman, that's the cause, no? Gusto mong malaman kung merong bang epekto yon doon sa mga manonood sa kanilang level of aggression. So in this case, you would like to know if watching violent TV shows leads to aggression. Number 4, is Albert Bandura's results on modeling observable in the Philippine setting? O, ito na yung sinabi ko doon sa number 2, di ba? This one is letter R, replication. The same idea. Si Albert Bandura kasi, nung ginawa niya yung kanyang original experiment on modeling of aggression, yung mga ginamit niya doon ay mga Amerikanong mga bata. Now, the thing is, iba kasi ang pag-iisip, iba ang orientation ng mga Pilipinong bata. So, ang tanong, if we are going to do Albert Bandura's experiment here in the Philippines, would we see the same results? And by the way, just to give you an idea, yung nakita ni Bandura doon sa kanilang original experiment, totoo nga na yung mga taong nanonood ng mga violent shows, nagiging violente rin. Specifically kids, kasi kids yung kanyang mga participants, no? So when kids watch a violent show, they also become violent. Ang tanong, do you think Filipino kids are also like that? The answer, we don't know until you replicate what Bandura did. Let's move on to number 5. Which population has lower stress levels? Those who belong to Buddhism or those in Hinduism? This is letter C. You would like to identify the cause. Again, ano yung cause dito? Ang cause dito is yung religion na kinaaaniban. Yung effect dito is yung stress level. So parang gusto mong malaman kung meron bang epekto yung klase ng religion mo doon sa level of stress mo. That is why number 5 is letter C. Okay? So as we close the class, I would just like to leave you this point, okay, this idea which I think is very important. I hope you realize that experiments always have a purpose. Hindi tayo nag-experiment ng wala lang. Hindi tayo nag-experiment na wala tayong goal, you know? Every time that you see an experiment, there is always a question being asked. There is always a question being asked. There is always an agenda that we do. And those agendas include the following. We would like to identify a cause, we would like to test the truth, or we would like to evaluate theories. But let's not miss the point, okay? Let's go see the bigger picture here. Bakit ba natin gustong mag-identify ng cause, mag-test ng truth, or mag-evaluate ng theories? Based on the slide, if you can see that word, accuracy. Because in essence, we would like to make sure that the reality that we are believing in is actually accurate. Sa Tagalog, gusto natin masigurado kasi na yung mga bagay na pinaniniwalaan natin ay tama. Ayaw nating maniwala sa mga bagay na mali. Ayaw nating maniwala sa mga bagay na kaduda-duda. Lalong-lalo na sa panahon ngayon, maraming tinatawag na fake news. Maraming tinatawag na mga knowledge na hindi naman totoo. Marami tayong mga kasinungalingan all around us. And it is really scary when we believe some of those things that are wrong. When we believe things that are not true. Diba sa Tagalog, meron tayong kasabihan, maraming namamatay sa maling akala. And you know what? That is very true. When we believe at something that is not true, and we think it's true, what happens? We use that lie as a basis for our behaviors. Yan yung nakakatakot. Kasi bilang mga tao, yung behavior natin, it is always anchored. It is always connected to the beliefs that we have. Diba? So, anong mangyayari kapag yung mga beliefs mo, akala mong tama, mali pala? You follow the logic, yung behaviors mo, magiging mali-mali rin. Diba? One good example is in the field of health. Diba? marami tayong mga sinaunang mga paniniwala about health that we thought it's true, at dahil doon, it affected our behaviors, only to find out later on, those truths are wrong. Ano nangyari? Na-damage na yung health natin. Halimbawa, yung paggamit ng betchin, o yung mga, 'di ba, yung mga pampalasa ng pagkain. Akala natin in the past, yung paggamit ng betchin, okay lang. It's part of cooking. It's part of culinary life. But later on, we found out na kapag kain pala tayo ng kain ng betchin, MSG, marami tayong mga health effects na nararanasan that are bad. Marami palang mga side effects yan sa ating health. Now, we didn't know. We didn't know. For a very long time, we thought there's no problem with that. Only to find out later on, nung nag-modernize na yung science, marami ng mga bagong research na lumabas. Health danger pala ang paggamit ng mga products na ito. But what happened? It's already too late. We already ingested a lot of these things. Kaya ngayon, bumabawi na lang tayo, nagde-detox na tayo sa mga betchin. Diba? I hope you get the point, no? The reason why we do experiment is because we would like to make sure that the things that we believe in is actually true. Sabi nga ng Bible, diba? There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, it leads to death. And we don't like those beliefs na mali pala at akala natin tama. We would like to make sure that everything that we believe is actually the truth. And thank God, God gave us a brain for us to be able to do experiments. Diba? Kaya nga tayo binigyan ng Diyos ng utak para makapag-experiment, para hindi tayo nagiging biktima ng Proverbs 16:25. Para ma-identify natin ano yung mga ways that seems right, yun pala mali. So I really hope na because of what I've shared today, you have a brand new respect of what we are doing here. Experiment is about finding the truth. Experiment is about improving the quality of your life. In what way? Ensuring that what you believe in here are actually the truths. Diyan pa lang sana tumaas ang respeto nyo sa ginagawa natin dito sa pamamagitan ng pag-experiment. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the post-lecture task.